Hello. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I wonder, for those who are watching, if you would introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your organisation and the services offered, and maybe a little bit about your role within that organisation as well.
My name is Ruth Smith and I'm the County Tipperary PPN Coordinator. What is the PPN? Well, for a start, it's an acronym for the Public Participation Network. There's one in every county. It's a nationally legislated community and voluntary organisation. And as I say, we're in County Tipperary and I'm the coordinator. We have 2 full-time staff. So it's myself, and then we have an administrator. Her name is Sharon Melbourne.
Okay. And then can I ask then, I suppose, a little bit about, we find out what's involved in being a member of the PPN and maybe the services offered. So where do we go from here? You mentioned the word to me earlier when we were chatting was plenary. So I suppose, what is the plenary?
Yeah. Okay, so the interesting thing about the PPN for me is that it's a flat structure.
Okay.
So we have member groups, and they're all community groups. They're divided into 3 pillars, if you like, or 3 sections. Okay. There's the community and voluntary pillar, the social inclusion pillar, and the environmental pillar. So we have 5 municipal districts in County Tipperary, okay, and you have the 3 pillars. So, for example, I'm going to come back to the plenary in a minute. Perfect. So, for example, the way that the PPN is run is that one person from social inclusion, one person from the environmental, one person from the community and voluntary in each municipal district. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay. There are representatives and they all sit on our management board, which is called the Secretariat.
Okay.
However, there is no chair. They rotate, facilitating and taking the minutes of the meetings. So there is no through the chair, and nobody has to be voted in, voted out. So it's very much consensus. Okay. But the really good part of the flat structure is that every member, and they're all groups, there's no individual membership, every group member has an equal say, and that is called the plenary. So we have 2 plenaries a year, one in the first half of the year and one in the second half of the year. Okay. And the members can attend or not attend, it's entirely up to them. And we have 1,200 member groups in County Tipperary. And they ratify the budget, they ratify our annual report, they ratify the work plan going forward for the year. And as I say, the Secretariat has no chair. So it's the member groups that are in charge, and we do the day-to-day office work and the Secretariat does the day-to-day management.
Okay. And so then we'll say, you mentioned then about groups being involved in the PPN. So if I'm a group, I suppose 2 parts to this. How do I become a member, and is it something specific about my group that entitles me to become a member?
Okay. So to be a member is very easy. It's just that you have to meet criteria. Okay. It's beneficial for a community group to be a member of the PPN if you're interested in developing your group, capacity building the group, which means, any training or any courses that might strengthen the work that the group does or strengthen the volunteers within the group. So what happens is when you register, you look at what type of group you are. So I think the most obvious one is the environmental groups. Okay. So if you're working through sustainability or biodiversity, any aspect of environmentalism, including tidy towns, on an individual basis, the tidy towns can be assessed because their national applications nowadays are very much biodiversity and environmental directed. Okay. So, and you put on the application form that you want to go into the environmental pillar. If you're from a social inclusion organisation, if you work with vulnerable people, hard to reach people, people who may be seen as disadvantaged, so that might be a resource centre, or you might be a youth organisation. You can be working with travellers, new communities, anything like that. Okay. Then you would apply to be in the social inclusion. And then All other groups tend to fit into the community and voluntary. So that's actually our biggest group of member groups, if you like. So that might be GAA, amateur dramatics, all sorts of groups. There's burial ground groups, things like that. They can all go under community and voluntary.
And so just to think of that at the moment for groups that might be watching or someone who's involved in a group, you know, where can they go to find out the information about how to join? Do they contact you? Can they look something up online?
Yeah, so to become a member of the PPN, you go on to ppntipperary.ie, which is our website. And on the home page, there's an orange button that says register. And you click on that and then you answer the questions. The main criteria is, because we are coming from a community development approach and very much socially inclusive, is that you have to have been formed as a group for longer than 6 months, that you have 6 or more members, and that your organisation is open to everyone.
Okay. So it's very clear as to what we need to have in place before we can be accepted.
So even if you're a childcare facility and you might think, well, we're not open to everybody, in a sense you are, because you're open to all families.
Yes. Okay.
So it's not to worry too much about that, that just to ensure that you're open to all.
And I suppose then with that, what are some of the benefits to me, the organisation, to join the PPN?
Well, one of the benefits is that you then can access the county council grants. Any sort of grant application through the county council, they ask that you are already a PPN member.
Okay.
However, you know, just because you're a PPN member to get a grant doesn't mean to say you can't benefit.
Yeah.
So we have, if you like, 3 strands of our work. The first one is information. The second one is to strengthen the groups. And the third one is to empower groups. So first and foremost is you start getting loads of information, whether it's through our e-newsletter that comes out monthly. That can be full of all sorts of opportunities for training or funding, submissions and consultations that maybe your group might like to be part of. It just opens up a world of information that's relevant to community groups on the ground. And then when it comes to the strengthening of the groups, that's through, as I was saying earlier, through training, capacity building, courses. And again, you know, that would come through the newsletter. You could always ring us. We would be very, well, we really love to be in that one-to-one connection with the community groups.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, so it's very hard to be. But at the same time, if training courses are coming up, or if there's an issue around insurance, not that we don't deal directly with insurance, but we can set you on your way to what service you need to you know, for what your group needs. So that's the strengthening. So that's the capacity building, if you like. So maybe a group needs to be trained in governance or trained in social media, and we would work very closely with organisations like the Tipperary Volunteer Centre based in Cashel around courses, because a lot of our groups are, without the volunteers they wouldn't exist. Yes. So we would work with groups, but the Tipperary Volunteer Centre would work with volunteers themselves, so we would collaborate around the needs of groups and volunteers. And then the third strand, as I say, is to enhance the voice of the community groups. And how do we do that? This actually is a really big part. But people tend to, first of all, warm up with the information and maybe attend a few courses. And then they get to grips with what the PPN can also do. And what we do is we have seats that are allocated to us on 19 boards in the county. And we have 64 PPN representative seats, if you like. Everything from all the county councils, strategic policy committees, to the Tipperary Volunteer Centre itself, to, I don't want to use too many acronyms, CIPSI, which is Children and Young People's Services Committee, and even to the South East Region Drug and Alcohol Task Force. So we can actually put, through nomination and through election, people from your PPN community group onto a relevant seat where you can have your voice, and then of course we will support you, and the board that you're sitting on supports you to have an input, to make sure things are on the agenda, to ensure that the issues on the ground and hopefully the solutions that are on the ground go up to the right board and policy changes. So that's a really big part of the PPN. We try and work so that the community can be part of policy change to, as I say, to add solutions to issues that are going on the ground.
I suppose the first thing that comes to my mind is that it's like a powerful voice is what's being offered. And that sounds absolutely incredible. The fact that you said, you know, a really good example of the play school, you know, that I might think that, well, who am I helping? But there's so many people being helped. And I think that's lovely that people may now watching this think, oh, maybe our organisation could also, I won't just use the word benefit, but they can benefit and they can gift something forward as well, maybe from their background.
They can bring a collective issue to the table that maybe wouldn't have got there otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, and it is through a very fair nomination process, and then if there's more than 2 nominees to a particular PPN rep seat on a particular board, then we'll have an election.
Okay.
And then there's an induction process, so, you know, people can be supported to be empowered, because you said, you know, to the powerful voice. And we work with people to empower them, to support them, to have that voice on that board and make that difference.
Yeah, so it's very empowering, and it's also very supportive to the various groups that are, as you said, the 3 pillars. There's a lot of support there between the training. You said maybe advice. It's not necessarily that we tell you how to get your insurance, but maybe we can offer support or guidance.
Yeah, signpost you to the service that we know deals with community groups or whatever that you might not know.
Yeah.
I suppose the other part of it as well is that we have the 3 pillars, as I say, environmental, social inclusion and community and voluntary, but the county has 5 municipal districts. So what we try and do is twice a year, sometimes more if we have the funding, to go into the municipal districts and hold a meeting that has some form of topic that's relevant to community groups of all the pillars, or specifically for one pillar, and have meetings with the groups. And that way it's really good. We can connect and they can network and they can share information and they can meet on a level that the plenary, being whole county, possibly doesn't allow.
No. Yes.
And therefore we're building up that cohesiveness and that support on the ground for the groups that are in County Tipperary.
Yeah, and they get to hear what's going on for the others as well, which is really, really good. I know we've touched a little bit on the County Council, and you mentioned something about, say, maybe grants and that as well. That's part of what you do? You offer support in applying for certain grants, or?
Okay, so we collaborate with a good few organisations. It's very beneficial to work with a collective voice, and we work closely with the County Council on a number of levels, and yet we're independent of the County Council. We have a company that would be the legal aspect of the PPN.
Okay.
But the County Council is the vehicle that we get our funding through. So we get national funding, but it's through the County Council. So we report to the County Council. Okay. There's a liaison officer who is Fiona Crotty, and we would work closely with them around making sure that any council grants that are available will get out through our information arena, and we would look at also doing training and apply ourselves to see around getting funding so that we could deliver training ourselves.
So if I'm a small-based community organisation, or I fit into one of the pillars and I'm watching this, what would you say to me start to do now if I'm not a member?
I would invite you to go on our website, ppntipperary.ie, or ring our office.
Okay. And of course, we'll have the details on the screen there at the end as well.
Great. And just talk to us about, how could you benefit? There's also, though, you can be directed to us anyway, and say, you go for a grant and they say, look, you have to register with the PPN first. Okay. In which case it's just going onto the homepage and following the questions. But we have an open door policy. Okay. If in any way there's a query or a need for clarification, please don't hesitate. Contact us. We're open 9 to 5:30, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And all are welcome as far as I can see.
Yeah, okay. It sounds, as I say, such a support, and it is a wonderful way to maybe get some training that might benefit, maybe share learnings with other members as well. So it sounds very informative, and I suppose I'm coming back to community, and that no matter what level we're at, we're there to support and give voice to each other, and to make change happen.
Yes, it's the basis of having a public participation network in every county is to ensure that the community on the ground has a voice in the local decision-making arena, so that they can be consulted and maybe be part of the draft county development plan or the local economic and community plan. Climate action plans. There's an awful lot of planning that goes on behind the scenes, and this is the way that a group, and I keep saying on the ground because it really is from the bottom up, it's a community development approach, so that the groups on the ground get their voices heard, and hopefully will make that difference to social change.
Okay. It sounds absolutely fantastic and very encouraging for groups to reach out and become involved in the PPN.
You make friends, you get information, you get ideas that maybe your group could do. There's always ways as well. You could become maybe a member of the Secretariat and be part of the day-to-day running. The plenary has huge opportunities to come and really see what's going on from an overview, if you like. The plenary would really have that overview. Your voice is needed, your voice is heard, and it's a collective voice. I'm really happy to be working for the PPN.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ruth. Really, really brilliant. Thank you for sharing all that.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.